Now, there's more of Matt Hancock's leaked WhatsApp messages in the Telegraph this morning, with claims that the former Health Secretary rejected advice to cut the time of COVID isolation. Well, here to make sense of all of this is ITV News UK editor Paul Brand. So here we are. It is relentless, isn't it?
Yeah, we're delving into day 6 now, Lorraine, of these WhatsApp messages. We were warned there was going to be day after day of them, and they weren't wrong. So now we're on to this accusation that Matt Hancock always said, didn't he, I follow the science. Turns out only when it suits him, according to this latest string of WhatsApp messages. Right. So as you say, this is about that quarantine period now, that self-isolation period. And we all remember when it was 2 weeks. And it was a really long ordeal, wasn't it? You had to stay in your home, not see anyone for 2 weeks. Well, he was advised at one point during the pandemic that he could cut that down to 5 days if people tested. And remember, it did change eventually, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
I mean, we all lose track of what happened when, but it did change at one point. But originally, when he was first advised, Matt Hancock said in one of his messages, I think moving to 7-day daily testing for contacts would be huge for adherence, but going below that would be a serious worry for people and imply we'd been getting it wrong. So he didn't want to cut the quarantine time, the self-isolation time, because it would make the government look silly.
And him in particular.
And him in particular.
Yes.
So that's one of the allegations in today's messages. There's also one about the way he perceived himself in terms of the vaccine.
Oh, wasn't he the super vaccine man?
Yeah,
so, and things, yes.
Not quite that bad, but close.
Oh, come on, so I wouldn't be surprised.
He says, everyone knows I'm Mr. Vaccine.
Yes, Mr. Vaccine.
And this is the route out. So he was talking about one point in the pandemic where there was good news about the vaccine. It was going to be sped up. The approval of the vaccine was going to be sped up.
Was he ever known as Mr. Vaccine? Not in my house.
I don't think so, because there was Kate Bingham, wasn't there, who was the kind of vaccine czar. And actually in these WhatsApp messages, there seems to be a bit of jealousy there between Matt Hancock and Kate Bingham, because he says that she's a bit wacky in one of the messages and seems to be trying to claim credit himself, saying this is a Hancock triumph. That this vaccine has been sped up.
A Hancock triumph. I think it's a triumph of science, the people that actually did it.
A triumph of self-confidence.
Yeah, there's a statement here from him, which I shall read out. This is from Matt Hancock. He says, there's absolutely no public interest case for this huge breach. He means the breach of confidence, doesn't he, for WhatsApp. All the materials for the book have already been made available to the inquiry, as we've seen. Releasing them in this way gives a partial biased account to suit an anti-lockdown agenda. Now, on that, that's very interesting, because the woman who has leaked it, of course, has issued a warning. Yeah,
this is Isabel Oakeshott. Yep. So she's a pretty well-known journalist. She's worked with lots of politicians over the years writing books. And if you've been following this saga, you'll already know there was a really, really bitter spat between her and Matt Hancock now. In fact, Matt Hancock was texting me until 1:30 in the morning one night last week because he was so furious with Isabel Oakeshott. He really believes that she has completely betrayed him by agreeing to write this book and then releasing all the messages that he'd provided her with. Now, she's saying, Matt Hancock, hold your horses, don't get too nasty about it, because I've got so much material on you that you may live to regret it. And this is what she told a podcast over the weekend.
Very interesting. You should not poke the hornet's nest. Now, why on earth he went to her? I wouldn't tell her what the weather's like. I mean, you know, why would you go to somebody like that who's got previous? It makes no sense at all. That's like a judgment on his part. Is there more to come, do you think?
I mean, it sounds like it. I think it sounds like there's plenty more to come. I mean, she was certainly saying over the weekend, look, we wouldn't put out our best stuff first. So there could be days more of this to come, I think. And there were 100,000 messages, don't forget. So I think we've had, you know, a dozen or so messages so far. Presumably there's more. Although she said she's only going to put out there stuff that's actually in the public interest. And on that point, as a fellow journalist, I do respect her saying that, at least, that she's only using the stuff that she genuinely thinks the public ought to know about.
But there is an inquiry coming. Anyway, on that, Boris Johnson has reared his head, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He's not going to go anywhere, is he? He's not going away. He's on the front of the Times today.
He's reared his head a few times, actually, in the past few days. It certainly feels like the circus surrounding Boris has returned with plenty of noise and fanfare. So a couple of issues this morning for Boris Johnson to have to defend. One is that he has, we're told, nominated his father for a knighthood. So he's already given his brother a peerage, and now his father, he says, should get a knighthood. This is part of his resignation honours. So all Prime Ministers do this when they resign. They nominate a load of people for all sorts of honours, and he wants his father to become a Sir, to become a knight. I mean, on the one hand, Stanley Johnson was an MEP for a while. He has served in public office. He's been an environmental campaigner. So there are reasons for it. But, you know, how many people get to nominate their dad for a knighthood, quite frankly? It does feel a bit like nepotism, doesn't it?
Oh, just a wee tiny, teeny, weeny, beanie bit. Yeah, he's not going anywhere, is he? He's desperate to come back.
We're going to see more of him in the coming weeks because, of
Oh.
course, we've got this parliamentary inquiry into whether he misled MPs about Partygate.
Right.
And I was able to find out last week that will be televised. So he's going to give evidence to MPs and it will be televised, assuming he turns up and agrees to turn up. So if you haven't done your online shop yet for March, then bulk buy the popcorn because it is going to be an absolutely box office affair, I think.
It's astonishing, isn't it? Paul, thank you. Utterly bizarre. It's just utterly bizarre. But thank you for making sense of it all, as you always do. Thank you so much.